Good afternoon, and welcome to the UOB News. Breaking news for you this morning: Adelphia, who is one of the biggest communication companies in the US, has been found guilty of $2.3 million of debts. So we are going to pass you over the Akshay now, who is outside the head office for Adelphia. So over to you, Akshay.
Thank you, Bobby. I'm reporting live outside the Adelphia headquarters, where Adelphia has just been recently found guilty of hiding over $2.3 billion worth of fraud from their financial statements. The Regas family, the owners of Adelphia, have been using subsidiaries of the company, such as a car dealership and a family-owned farm, as a means to commit these false transactions. These subsidiaries would provide Adelphia with goods such as company cars, and in return, the Regas family would receive money from Adelphia. However, as the subsidiaries were purely owned by Regas family themselves, the money received would never go to Adelphia, but would go to themselves. And the cars and other goods would never actually be transferred, but just appear to be on their statements. Some of these subsidiaries didn't even exist physically and were created purely to create these fictitious transactions. They also made false documents to show the debt falsely being paid off. Overall, this is one of the most high-profile accounting scandals in recent history. Back to Bobby and Natalie in the studio.
Thanks, Akshay. We have Natalie here in the studio, who is an expert on the matter. So, Natalie, could you firstly tell us some information about Adelphia's corporate governance failure?
Of course, Adelphia didn't follow the guidelines for corporate governance. They were caught lying to both their shareholders and the general public about this fraud, which only the Regas family were benefiting from. They were acting in the interest of themselves rather than the interest of the shareholders.
So, who, in your opinion, is to blame for the scandals, and why did corporate governance fail?
The bulk of the blame rests on the shoulders of the Regas family, as they were ultimately creating the fraud. However, the directors may be considered to play a part in the collapse of the company. The directors are in charge of the company, and they need to ensure that everything is closely looked upon, which clearly didn't happen. The negligence led to a laundering of over $100 million, which contributed significantly to the off-balance sheet debt created by Adelphia.
So, was there anyone else to be blamed for this fraud?
The last but not least is Deloitte, which is one of the best accounting firms in the world. They were unable to detect the fraudulent activities, although ultimately it isn't their job to detect fraud. Auditing of the financial statements should have picked up on the fictitious transactions and false documents. As a result, they are set to be fined by the company and are looking to pay out a huge $50 million in settlements.
So, could there be any method put in place to avoid this type of fraud to occur again?
Yeah, sure. There are obvious methods that can be put in place to help maintain the operation of the company. The controls of the subsidiary and the parent company should be strengthened as such to allow them to pick up any suspicious activity. They could hire and train employees so that they specialise in certain areas. Segregation of duties should be put in place in order to prevent the misappropriation of assets and any false transactions being put through the system. These are just a couple of controls which would help prevent this happening again. However, there are many more that the company could adopt.
One final question. How can they keep an eye for any suspicious behavior?
Transactions should be checked in order to ensure they are 100% true and they are legitimate. Assets should be checked to make sure they actually exist and are not made up to inflate the balance sheet. Cash should be reconciled to the bank statement. And like earlier mentioned, segregation of duties should be put in place and monitored. If the same person is entering transactions and then checking them at a later date, that makes it easier for them to commit fraud.
Thank you, Natalie. So overall, the company's control failed them and allowed these huge scandals to take place. It has resulted in the collapse of Adelphia and the arrest of the Regas family. That's all for tonight. Good night.